Greetings and welcome to this special SquareEnix Just Blew Our Minds edition of The Thirsty Mage. This is the podcast where friends can meet and have a pint and talk about RPGs, and we have some big news to discuss tonight. Before we get into it though, I just want to remind everyone to subscribe on their podcast player of choice. We are now bi-weekly, so you don't want to miss any of the episodes. Also, if you have any friends that you think would enjoy the show, be sure to let them know. We always have an extra seat at the pub. I am your host David Lloyd, and joining me at this late hour tonight is Nintendo World Report owner, Mr. Neil Ronahan.
I am here to talk Saga games because that was weirdly like half of Square Enix's Direct, it felt like. The Saga Gaga, that's where we're at.
Happy to hear about it being on the Switch. It's a Saga in particular, is I've never gotten really into it, touched on it, but I'm looking forward to jumping into that one when it hits the Switch at some point. Coming soon, apparently.
But let's start with the big stuff, because like they're like it's not Nintendo, but I think that Final Fantasy VII Remake was possibly like, I can't think of how you could have unveiled that better than how that opened the Square Enix press conference.
That was absolutely beautiful. Like from the music to the opening pullout from Aerith or Eris, whoever they end up, whatever name they're going to end up using.
I'll go with it. It's Aerith. Aerith is the name that they're using in the remake. They used Eris in the Final Fantasy VII PlayStation 1, even in the remasters. But now, you know, they're doing Aerith. Yeah. So I'll stick with that, even if it goes against what I played as a child.
That's right. Well, and Midgar looks absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah. Like, and that's the crazy thing, is that so this is going to be on 2 Blu-ray discs. Yeah. I was joking that, like, oh yeah, when it comes to Switch, you can just put it across like 8 game cards, because that's what it'll need. And it's just this part, they have confirmed that Final Fantasy VII Remake that is slated to come out in March of 2020 will just be Midgar. But it will be, it seems, they haven't given a specific time of how long the game will be, but it seems like it might be like a 15-20 hour game. Like, that's the vibe that I'm kind of getting from what they're saying. They said, like, it'll be a full experience.
It certainly seemed that way.
They're adding a lot to the Midgar section. I don't know if that necessarily means well, I guess there is story additions, because if you look at like the Sephiroth interaction that they've shown in a couple of or at least they've teased in a couple of the videos that they've shown, like, you don't actually see Sephiroth when you're in Midgar. You just kind of follow his wreckage.
Yeah.
In the original version of the game. So it seems like they might be expanding on that. There's like the weird ghost stuff that surrounds Aerith when Cloud meets her. So they might be adding more to the story.
Yeah, it definitely looks like there's going to be... It's not going to be just the same vanilla story that we grew up with before. There's obviously going to be a lot more detail, a lot more depth.
I hope we get a lot more detail into Don Corneo. Yes. What's his story?
We need a backstory and, you know, a visual history of how he came to be. But on a serious note, it looks like there's going to be a lot more Avalanche.
Yeah.
Backstory, and maybe we're going to see a little bit more of their motivation and their feelings.
Just spend more time with them.
Yeah, exactly. It was showed they were having like that discussion after the initial explosion, so you're going to kind of get an idea of how they felt about what they were doing. And
yeah, because I mean, I was struck by replaying Final Fantasy VII. I think I was out of Midgar in 4 or 5 hours, and I wouldn't say that I was leisurely doing it, but I also wasn't necessarily rushing. There's just like, yeah, I think your first time through in Final Fantasy VII, you know, that Midgar could take a lot longer, but like even like a lazy playthrough, you're in and out in under 5 hours. Like there's a couple story beats that you hit, and it just seems like, yeah, a lot deeper. And I'm not sure how the pace of combat will go, but combat's going to be hella different and I think it looks really cool.
Yeah.
Very, very Kingdom Heartsy, but it seems like, I mean, maybe even a little Xenobladey, I might say, because it seems like you have a basic attack that you use, and then you can kind of set up using different other attacks. Like you do have an ATB bar that you fill up, and then you can use, stuff like Braver. You can fire off materia that goes right into the weapon. They showed like how like Cloud's sword had 2 spots for materia that you could put in there, which is just a really cool touch.
Yeah, exactly.
They have the differences in characters, how Cloud's a melee fighter, but then Barrett can attack from afar. They showed an entire boss fight that just, like
looked insane.
The fact, the way that you bounce between the playable characters is just really cool, and it seems like it can kind of set you up to setting up strategy, and it's super Xenoblade like in that regard, where you're fighting a big monster and you're trying to spatially use your characters to get around and kind of mix between turn-based and action RPG qualities.
Well, and that's the thing is I was lamenting what seemed like the death of the turn-based combat of Final Fantasy VII, and I think that might have been
premature.
Jump the gun on the death of the turn-based, because that bullet time edition where you build up your ATB meter and then it basically freezes time. I love that you could still move the I don't know if that's going to be part of it, but if you can still move the camera around while you're frozen in time, that's a pretty cool addition. And then to be able to use the turn-based mechanics at that point, so like using items or using like you said, the braver attack, or it looks incredible. And then to be able to the switching between the characters is a great addition. Of you don't want to get stale if you're always Cloud and always using like a sword attack, to be able to flip over whenever you want to bear it. And then I really enjoyed it in that boss attack too, that like the dialogue between the two as they were fighting.
Like that seems like that's going to be a hard thing to probably do well, especially as you get deeper into the game and your party can change dramatically. Although I guess as far as your party getting that deep, if they really are just staying in Midgar, you're going to have, 5 characters by the end of that? Because you'll have Cloud, Barrett, Tifa, Aerith, and you get Red 13 near the end, right? Yeah.
Well, and then, and the Red 13 would be at the very end.
Yeah.
Assumingly, so you probably wouldn't have to worry about him for the most part. It would mostly just be the 4. I'm also curious how they're going to handle that, because obviously you wouldn't have, are all 4 going to be switchable? Like, are you going to be able to go through them all? Because obviously we had the three member party in the original, but now that's not as big.
I believe in everything that they showed, it seems like it's only 3 characters in your party at one time.
Okay, well that'll be an interesting choice then, because in my latest playthrough of Final Fantasy VII, I pretty much ignored Aeris in that game, knowing the impending.
Yeah, no, I used her a lot in Midgar, actually, and once I got out of Midgar, I'm like, what am I doing anything with her? She's on borrowed time.
That's right.
But yeah, like, I was kind of on board for this game regardless, especially after replaying Final Fantasy VII for this very podcast. I was definitely very curious about it. I went from just being, academically curious about what they were going to do with this remake to circling March 2020 as gonna play me some Final Fantasy VII remake until they inevitably delay it. Which I think this will come out in 2020. That's where I'm at. I don't think it'll come out in March.
No, well, I don't know. It looked
although there might be a lot of pressure with that, because Avengers, which we're not going to talk about here because we didn't see, the voice actors seem great. That's what I have to say.
It's unconfirmed. The genre is unconfirmed at this point, I would say.
Yeah. But Avengers is coming out. It's slated for May 2020. So I'd imagine that there's probably going to be a big push on Square's behalf to get this out before the end of the fiscal year in March.
Mm-hmm. Well, what they showed us, we actually got to see real gameplay, so...
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully they're close. And then, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that story, though, because, even from the little that we saw, it looks like a lot of it's getting flipped. Those ghosts and Sephiroth right off the bat are okay, it's going to be different. And I'm looking forward to that the fight going up. Like, there's probably going to be a lot more levels to the Shinra building, and looking forward to seeing Rufus, and I'm excited.
Yeah. They haven't shown the Turks like at all yet, have they?
No. Well, you know what's funny? Those ghosts.
Even tonight,
like, are they replacing the Turks with those ghosts or something? Because that was kind of around the time when the Turks show up. Because that kind of looked like the point where she was picking the flowers and Cloud met up with them. So it's that would be disappointing though if they made the Turks like a bunch of spectral ghosts or something.
Like I'm not gonna say I have full confidence, but like it's the kind of thing where it doesn't invalidate the original game. That's kind of been my logic with looking at the Final Fantasy VII remake since it was first announced.
Yeah.
And like I don't know exactly what the original form is because there was a whole thing where CyberConnect was working on a version of the game and then it wasn't coming together. So then Square booted them, and now it's being done internally. Basically, I think it's the Kingdom Hearts 3 team is working on this.
Yeah.
Like that's I think that Final Fantasy VII, the original game, is still imminently playable right now. So if this game turns out to be crappy, like I'll just go back to the old version. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm viewing it as its own thing. Like, I don't think whatever happens that it's not going to change my opinion of the original, and I'm not looking at it as the same. Like, so I'll give them some extra leeway on where they want to creatively take it, because obviously, just with the way it's set up, they really do have to add more. So I'll have faith for now and hope for the best. How much lighter is your wallet going to be when March 3rd comes around?
I'm just getting the normal version. I don't.
3 tiers of craziness.
You do that because guess what? Final Fantasy VII fans are gonna buy a bunch of bullshit.
That's right.
It seems like that's what they do.
Oh, they'll sell plenty of those $300 versions, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, how about we move on to the next Final Fantasy announcement, the Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition.
Yeah, like that was supposed to like be out by now, I think.
Yeah. Well, they didn't give it much time. A little bit of music, a few seconds.
The music's great. It's a banger soundtrack. And it's coming out. They said this winter, which that's a game. I'm not gonna say I'm super jazzed for Crystal Chronicles, but at the same time, like when it comes out, I'll play it. Like especially with online co-op, like that's a game I had a lot of fun playing that back on GameCube, complete with finding a Game Boy Advance to GameCube connector cable so I could play with friends. Now I don't have to do that. That's enticing. But I'm glad this game's coming back because it's a really fun game.
Just a little worried it's going to get buried because if it's winter, there's going to be a lot coming out this holiday.
Well, is there? Like, I don't know if you noticed from all the other E3 stuff, like, it's pretty much the Jedi game and Death Stranding as far as, like, big games on other consoles. I mean, like, Nintendo's got Pokemon, and right now we are recording this before the Nintendo Direct, but there's still, Animal Crossing Luigi's Mansion, other possibilities, who knows, of what's coming out this holiday. Nintendo is pretty much the only company, as of recording, that it's a wild card. Everybody else has kind of laid their hands on the table, and by the time you listen to this, we'll all be dumb. Yeah. Because you probably will have heard the Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what it'll be up against from Nintendo, because the Final Fantasy ports now, I wouldn't say had too much to contend with from Nintendo, like with Nintendo's second half of the year being much denser than their first half of the year.
I feel like Crystal Chronicles, your reasonable expectation is probably on par with World of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the other thing too is Crystal Chronicles is like the GameCube crowd wasn't that big at the time. Although I suppose that was the only Final Fantasy you could play if you.
It was Final Fantasy's return to a Nintendo console after what, almost a decade.
Yeah, it would be pretty.
I guess
close.
Final Fantasy VI was the last game before then. Although we're leaving out the fact that. Well, actually, no. There was even an era where I don't think Square kind of left the Game Boy too, but yeah, I think there was. Yeah, because they did like Wonder Swan versions of Final Fantasy 1 and 2.
Can't think. Yeah, I don't think there was like new IP or anything. Like it was all. The Game
It
Boy
was a lot
stuff
of ports.
was ports.
And I
stuff.
think by the time Crystal Chronicles came out, that's where they had like those couple years where there was like a Mana game on every platform. Like I think Sword of Mana, which is the remake of the like original Game Boy one. There was Heroes of Mana on DS. But anyway,
are we considering Dragon Quest Builders 2 sort of an RPG? Not exactly.
Sort of. Like I also feel like we didn't hear. They spent a lot of time on it, but I don't feel like we heard a lot of news. That's also weird. That's a game that's already out in Japan, and it's not like I'll probably play it. I like the first one, and I liked what I played of the second one a lot when I played it at PAX East.
From my understanding, I think 2 there's more focus on story. I believe.
Yeah.
Or quests anyway. I played the first one. It was all right. I didn't put a whole lot of time in it. It was. I think at the time it was being marketed as like a Minecraft with Dragon Quest universe.
I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's Minecraft with a story.
Yeah. So then the next one would be the Last Remnant Remastered.
Yeah, which I mean that's vaguely Saga related as well, because it's Akitoshi Kawazu worked on the Last Remnant. I don't know much about it other than I think it's almost incomprehensible in some respects.
Well,
it came out on the 360. It was a 360 exclusive.
Yep.
In like 2008, and then it came out in remastered form, which is the same form as it is on Switch. Came out on PlayStation 4 last December, but it's out now. Apparently, it's only $20. I might bite. Like, I'm mad because of like I'd rather play the Saga games as opposed to the Last Remnant.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna give it a go. It's funny just looking up kind of the criticisms of the original release, and I guess a lot of the problems were graphically related.
Yeah, it was Square's first game on Unreal Engine.
Yeah,
so
it'll be interesting.
And then like the remastered version went from Unreal Engine 3 to 4. That was kind of the big part of the remaster.
So I mean that stuff will be fixed. I know from what I've read, a lot of it like they have a new battle system, and that's kind of what they're hanging their hat on is the turn-based. It's like a turn-based, command-based combat system, which focuses on like a group of enemies as opposed to individual units. So I mean it's worth a play. We'll see. There'll be a review up on NintendoWorldReport.com within the next couple weeks, I'd imagine, and we'll see if they've fixed any of the issues that seem to plague it a bit. But it wasn't all that well received critically at the time, so we'll see how it goes. It was they didn't really show a whole lot of it either in the trailer, so it's a bit of a wild card. We'll see how it goes. So next up is what you are excited for, Neil, the Romancing Saga 3 and Saga Scarlet Grace.
The humorous thing with this is that the last Saga game that I played I didn't like, which was Romancing Saga 2, which is out on Switch right now. I think I'm going to click... Yeah, Brian Rose reviewed it when it came out in 2017. He gave it a 7 out of 10. But the cool thing about Romancing Saga 3 is that it's a Super Famicom game that never came out in America. So that's cool. I like the fact that a game that never made it out of Japan is coming over in English. The thing that I'm more excited about is Saga Scarlet Grace, which I believe the Switch version, or as well, it's coming to both of these games are coming to a bunch of other platforms other than Switch. But Saga Scarlet Grace Ambition, that was a Vita game. It was a Vita exclusive in Japan in 2016. And then it's actually already out in Switch in Japan. It came out there last year. I don't really know too much about the reception of that game, at least the Switch version specifically. But I'm way more interested in the modern version of the Saga game as opposed to the 1995 Super Famicom version. But I will probably wind up getting Romancing Saga 3 just because I will support long-lost Super Nintendo games being translated into English.
Yeah, you got to give them the light of day so we can get it. It's an era that is sorely missed. So
yeah, and also that's the more Kawazu games.
Yeah.
Did you like Final Fantasy 2? If you were one of the 3 people, then this is your bag.
Well, it'll be, and they didn't give us a release date for that one, so
Yeah, it just said coming soon.
Yeah.
I mean, Romancing Saga 3, I don't even think is out in Japan on Switch yet. That was announced a while ago. And I think both of them had rumors of Western versions coming for a long time.
Yeah. I'm hoping it's kind of during a lull of everything else, because
Yeah.
they do interest me. I can't say that they would take over, like, if there was something more interesting. Like, if they're coming out at the same time as Dragon Quest 11, then it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Like, they're weird games, because a lot of the hook of the Saga series is that whole, you don't level up, you kind of do actions, and you could randomly level up that action.
Yeah.
The game, The Alliance Alive, as well as The Legend of Legacy, is kind of in the same vein. Those were kind of recent 3DS games. The Alliance Alive actually coming to Switch. I think it's coming out later this year in English.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I'll probably check out Scarlet Grace, and Romancing Saga 3. Like, once again, just happy to be here. Happy these things are happening.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of Dragon Quest 11, they mentioned that they're still bringing it out. Again, I don't think they gave us any kind of firm release date, but
I mean, that looks really cool. Like,
yeah.
I love the retro stuff. Like, I'm very excited for that game to come out. I think we'll probably by the time you're listening to this, I think we're going to get a release date during the Nintendo Direct tomorrow.
Oh, that'd be good. It looks,
yeah.
And it's funny too. It looks great. The fact that the Nintendo seems to be getting the best version of Dragon Quest 11, to be able to flip between the 16-bit and the modern graphics, I guess, and then to have the orchestral music. I think there's going to be some jealous people out there if they don't got a Switch, because this looks like it might be the best way to play Dragon Quest 11.
I'm very, very excited. Looking forward to that one a whole lot.
Yeah. Another one I'm looking forward to is Oninaki.
Oninaki. Yeah. I feel like that game looks better than how it first showed. Which, like, I mean, like, great. I'm glad it looks better.
Yeah.
I mean, I just have my doubts, because Tokyo RPG Factory, who are the developers of Oninaki, they did I Am Setsuna and The Lost Sphere, which are 2 games that I think were very disappointing. They tried to do a thing, which was make Chrono Trigger, I think, and they just did that thing very boring, and it seemed to kind of not really understand why people like old JRPGs.
Yeah.
This one is more of an action RPG, so maybe it's going to try to carve its own path a little bit more. And maybe it'll wind up better, but we'll find out in about 2 months.
Yeah.
It's coming out on August 22nd. I'll keep an eye on it. I look forward to our coverage on it. I think the guys at E3 are going to get to play it. I think. Might even have an interview with someone. I don't know.
I'm hoping third time's a charm.
Yeah.
I can see them. My hope is that with more experience, they're just going to kind of find their niche. Find something that people enjoy. Because I kind of like the spirit of the old JRPGs, but they kind of they need to find their own voice or find their own style, I guess. And I'm hoping this is it.
Oh yeah, I'll tease it here. On Thursday, Jared and Donald are apparently interviewing the Tokyo RPG Factory director. So I hope they get to play the game beforehand.
Yeah,
or else that'd be awkward. It'd be like, so tell me about the game.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll have more Oninaki coverage. I will look forward to seeing like what they think about it. I hope Donald gets to play it, because I'd love to hear what he has to say.
Before we get to my big topic, is there anything else in the Square presser that you want to talk about first?
No. I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much it for the RPGs.
Yeah. So, yeah, like it was my favorite press conference so far, and I actually think what probably made it, well, I don't even know if there'd be any other competitor if you were to subtract the last thing, which I will endlessly make fun of that last thing, because of how much you love that last thing. But I'm extremely, extremely excited for the thing that got announced.
And that thing is Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. Oh man, was I
And it looks
so pissed back in, what was it, back at the beginning of the year when they announced every game except Final Fantasy VIII.
Yep.
And they were just holding out on me the whole time. Those bastards. But yeah, I don't think the game, like, they showed a little bit. I don't think that was from the remaster though. It looked, if it was, it looked pretty close to the original graphics.
Yeah, like, I'm curious. I don't know how deep a remaster it's going to be. I think I saw some chatter out there that people were saying it was kind of be in the line of that, like the 10 and 12 remake, or I guess remasters, where it's a little bit more than like the ports that like 7 and 9 were in a way, but still not necessarily a full thing.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if they'll be adding anything, because like Final Fantasy 12, they added in some additional content, like the being able to change the job classes on like whenever you want. And the only thing with that though is that like the Zodiac Age, like there was already, like they already had the extra content made for the PS4 version and then brought it over to Switch with the extra content. So it's hard to say if they'll do much for Final Fantasy 8, because then Final Fantasy 7 really didn't have, like you said, 7 didn't have, and 9 didn't have anything.
Yeah.
Other than 9, the new sprites, I guess.
I think 9 is just a crappy port. Like,
yeah.
Let's get real.
Have they even fixed the music bug yet? I don't think so. Not in 9.
No, but they fixed it in 7, which is cool.
Yeah, it might be coming, but yeah, like it doesn't, to me it doesn't, I don't even care. Like, just the fact that it can play on Switch will be good enough for me. If they make any other kind of improvements, then terrific, I guess.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and it's funny, like on Twitter and stuff, it seems like there's a market out there for 8, so I don't think I'm the only crazy person that was hoping for it to come.
Yep. And I think that's about it. I mean, there's other RPG stuff. We'll hopefully, I mean, we'll probably see a lot more Fire Emblem, probably more Dragon Quest XI throughout Treehouse Live and everything. But I think for the purposes of the Square conference, I think we hit all the high notes.
Yeah, I would say easily that was the highlight of E3 so far, anyway. Like,
yep,
really, you know,
most definitely
the gameplay. Just having that gameplay made such a world of difference. Because like, with the Microsoft, it was just trailer after trailer, but none of it was anything of value. It was just like, oh, here's a game. Oh, here's another game. Oh, and here's another game. And it's like, okay, like, we don't know much about the games. They don't show much, like, little to no gameplay whatsoever. It all kind of fell flat, but to me it was, I mean, there's a couple points in the Square where it kind of slowed down a bit, but I mean, over 90 minutes, there's going to be lulls, you know.
Yeah.
I felt like they were able to bring stuff back.
Avengers was kind of a thud.
Yeah, I'm not sure what, I don't know why they didn't show the gameplay. That was the only...
Yep.
Only thing that I felt they kind of fell flat on is they had this big reveal at the end, and like showing the cinematic stuff I thought was great, but the thing they were missing is the gameplay, which they nailed with like most of the other games. I think almost all the games showed a little bit of gameplay.
Yeah, or at least it was like a trailer that had gameplay in it, and they moved on.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
I think that's.
But I mean, the other 80 minutes was great. So, what can I say?
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm excited. I hope that Nintendo's E3 Direct does not disappoint me. You can hear my thoughts after the Direct, in which I cry because it'll disappoint me. I don't know. It'll probably be fine. If they show cool games, I'll be happy, even if it's not like they just announced everything I ever wanted to hear.
Yeah. Well, there should be enough for the RPG lovers out there to... Yep. So, yeah, so I hope everyone enjoyed just a quick little summary of the Square Enix presser at E3. It was just so exciting we had to get it out right away. But we will have like a full E3 breakdown. We're going to be recording that Wednesday. Hopefully get that out to you by Thursday. And so that'll include... some of the announcements from Microsoft earlier in the week, or on Sunday, I guess it was. We'll touch a little bit on Square when we get Jordan and Casey on as well. And then we'll probably focus mostly on the Nintendo RPGs that are announced. And just give a little assessment of how we thought the E3 in general. It won't be quite over when we do our discussion, but for the most part, the major announcements will all be done. So,
yeah.
Alrighty. Well,
all right.
I want to thank you, Neil, for staying up in
Thanks
the middle of the night
me.
and
Yeah.
at the beginning of the week. Yeah, so the adrenaline's still pumping, so it'll be a while before I go to bed. From those of us at the Thirsty Mage, we wish you good night, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.